the bravest man that I ever knew. Have Roger Dean report to Mother Winter's quarters as quickly as possible. Matron Castile pointed at my 7-year-old rear end and told me to report to the office located at the main dining room area of the orphanage. And tie that damn shoe of yours. That's the last time I'm going to tell you, you stupid little bastard. Yes, ma'am, Mother Castile, I replied as I stooped down and began tying my shoe. Hurry it up. Mother Winters does not like to be kept waiting. Yes, ma'am, Mother Castile. Okay. I tied my shoe as quickly as I could, and I began running across the grass circle which set in the center of the orphanage grounds. Looking back as the matron was cursing at me, I tripped over one of the many steel sprinklers. Darn it! I screamed out as I looked down at my bleeding leg. I shook the 8-inch high metal steel sprinkler pipe to see if I might get a little water out to wash off the injured area. Knowing that I would be in big trouble for tripping myself, I placed my mouth over the top and I began to suck the sprinkler head to try and draw out whatever water might be left in the pipe. What the damn hell do you think you're doing? Said Mother Winters, the head matron. Just trying to clean off the blood stuff, Mother Winters. All at once the head matron pulled out the dreaded bolo paddle. It had sandpaper glued on each side, and she began beating me about the head and face. You stupid little bastard! You bent my damn sprinkler! She screamed. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry, Mother Winters! I screamed as I tried best to roll into a ball to protect myself. The tighter I rolled into a ball, the more she would beat me, trying with each powerful blow to reach my face with the sandy, now bloody paddle. You's gonna kill that boy if you don't stop, yelled Mac, the old black groundskeeper. You get your black ass back to work and mind your own damn business, she screamed at him. Once again, she began to beat me with the large wooden paddle. Old Black Mac walked over, grabbed the metal sprinkler. With his bare hands, he ripped the entire pipe out of the ground. The long steel pipe snapped in half as if it were nothing more than a piece of paper. With a look of murder on his face, he raised the long pipe above his head and said, Miss Mamie, you touch that boy one more lick and I'll crush your skull. Mother Winters looked directly at him, stood there for several seconds. Then she slowly lowered the paddle to her side. Damn nigger folk! She screamed out as she turned and began walking quickly toward the office. Old Mac walked over and he helped me off the ground. How many times she hit you, boy? A lot of times, Mr. Mac, a lot of times, I told him as I started to cry. Old Mac sat down on the ground beside me and he laid my head against his chest and he hugged me as hard as he could. Mr. Mac, you stood up against Mother Winters. You're real brave to do that, I told him as I tightened my arms around the man's large chest. Within 5 minutes, several police cars arrived. Old Mac loosened his grip on me and he stood up. The police, walking towards us, pulled out their handcuffs and billy clubs. I ain't done nothing's wrong, he told the policeman. One of the policemen raised his club and began striking Old Mac across the shoulders. Old Mac just stood there not moving a muscle. Time after time after time they struck him. The only muscles that moved were the muscles in his face as they quivered. I screamed and I yelled, begging them not to hurt him, but it did no good. They beat Old Mac until he finally fell limp to the ground. On my hands and knees, I crawled over to my friend and I laid down next to him. With swollen eyes, I watched as they handcuffed Old Mac and drug his lifeless body more than 50 yards to the police car. As they drove away, I saw Mother Winters motioning for me to come to the screened-in dining room building. I stood there watching until the police car disappeared out the large white gates of the orphanage. Move it, you stupid little bastard, she screamed. Slowly, I walked over to the building where she stood. I stopped between the two potted fern plants, and I just stood there. Her big red lips pressed tightly together. Her eyes squinted at me as if she were a monster. She opened the screen door and ordered me to enter. I watched as she walked down the long, dark hallway to her quarters. I knew that she was going to retrieve the dreaded bolo paddle. Within seconds, I saw her walking toward me with the paddle raised over her head. I moved not a muscle as she began striking me in the face, over and over and over. All I could think about was Old Mac and how brave he was to stand up against Mother Winters. Even Superman never came to the orphanage to try to save us kids. I guess he felt it would be too dangerous and much too difficult a task to take on Mother Winters.